was reported at that time that you had a number of meetings with Jeffrey Epstein, who, when you met him 10 years ago, he was convicted of soliciting prostitution from minors. What did you know about him when you were meeting with him, as you've said yourself, in the hopes of raising money?
I had dinners with him. I regret doing that.
What did you do when you found out about his background?
Well, I've said I regretted having those dinners, and there's absolutely nothing new on that.
Is there a lesson for you, for anyone else looking at this?
Well, he's dead, so in general, you always have to be careful.
So, apart from the founder of Windows being buddy-buddy with Epstein and touching little kids, here are some reasons why you shouldn't be using Windows in the first place. Windows comes with a bunch of telemetry that's embedded within the operating system. Even if you disable this telemetry through the use of tools or through the use of the group policy manager, Windows can find a way to automatically reset this through each update it brings out. The most spookiest feature that Windows has is Windows Recall. Windows Recall basically contains snapshots of your screen of every interaction you have done throughout the day. You can search for terms that you have implemented as well, which helps figure out what you potentially missed out on. And I know what you're thinking, oh, this is great. This means I can just, not have to remember anything I do, and I can just use this fancy little search function and it will handle all my problems for me. But trust me, this is something that you don't want. Not only can you expect all of the boys at Microsoft to know what you're doing at all times, whether it's searching for a little function or whatever, but also hackers can easily write a simple Python script which will automatically retrieve whatever videos or information that Windows Recall has implemented. There was also a strange occurrence inside of Windows 99 in which there was a special cryptographic key known as the NSA key, which was used to sign the Microsoft's API. Now you can probably just tell from the name, oh, what does that stand for? Besides all of the spyware and data collection that Windows does, it's also extremely expensive, with Windows 11 being at the base price of $139. You compare this with a distribution or an operating system like Linux, which is completely free pretty much. Everything is proprietary, from the graphical user interface or the GUI, to the drivers, to the browsers, and to the tools. The problem with something being proprietary means that a third party cannot validate or check the code to see if there's any inbuilt spying mechanisms built into it. There may also be potential security flaws which have not been picked up on. Since less people are viewing the code, that means that it's more likely for people to know or to figure out potential security bugs that have not been seen yet. There is the principle of security through obscurity, which Windows seems to be a big fan of. In order to protect the amount of money they make, they go ahead and they hire a bunch of security auditors, which in my opinion is not as effective as making the entire codebase open source, because the pros that come with being open source means that you have an entire community that's dedicated to fixing and patching these vulnerabilities, and they do it out of passion rather than money. And I'm not saying those auditors don't do it out of passion, but it's more likely that you'll have a more kind of supportive or passionate community if you make it open source in the first place. Operating systems such as Linux is a great example of what happens when you make the entire codebase open source, is you have that community of people who are willing to validate and check the code and make commitments to make it better, which in my opinion, it's so much better and so much more authentic than just, like hiring a bunch of researchers who do it as their day job. Compare that to a bunch of people who come from other walks of life, and they go ahead and they sit down and they make edits here and there. And the great thing is they do it out of passion rather than, just being paid for it. But that pretty much sums it up for this. If you don't want Mr. Billy touching any more kids, then click the first link in the description, and I'll see you in the next one.